Alright, to start off the new year, we are up here at Eurocycles. We're gonna take the R18, which is BMW's cruiser bike, and the thing looks kind of sick. It's wide, it's got that boxer style engine. The R18, this is the first edition. They've got a couple different models of this. This is kind of like a stripped down, simple version, but it's a beautiful bike. The other nice thing about this bike is it is a key fob. There is no key for this bike, I don't believe. Oh, I'd take that back. There's a key, just in case, I suppose. A little flip out key, look at that. It's fancy. Kind of wish mine did that. But anyway, yeah, I got this fob. I just throw it in my pocket, just like so, which is very convenient. I actually looked into seeing if there was an upgrade for the S1000, and there is not, but that would be really cool. Now over here, you've got your power button over here. You just push that. Your electronics will kick on, and we're going to start it. I want you to see kind of how the bike starts. I should probably put it in neutral. That would probably help. There we go, we are in neutral. Now on this particular bike, you have to hold in the clutch in order to start it. And then as soon as I hit the start button, you're going to see the bike kind of shake a little bit, because it's got some big cylinders on it. And again, they're playing tug of war, so let's take a look. See that? The bike just kind of does its own thing, and it just pulls. It's very interesting. It's just an odd feeling. I hope that showed up in the GoPro video. And you can see the bars. I mean, this bike is torquey. It's got a little bit of a shake to it, but it's a smooth shake. It's kind of hard to explain. If you have a dealer local to you, like today I'm over at Eurocycles, so if you're in Tampa, swing by Eurocycles and test ride this bike so you can kind of fully understand the feel of this. It's hard to paint a feeling through video and words. I know a poet would do it better than me, but when you get on it, you can feel the bike. It feels like a V8 or something. How the engine torque just kind of rotates the entire bike. It's a very interesting bike. So this is the R18, which is a big bike from BMW. This thing weighs around 800 pounds. It's an 1800cc motorcycle, and it's a twin boxer engine, which means that each side is carrying a little over 900 cc on this engine, and you feel it. And now while the engine is only pushing about 90 horsepower, it's got about 115 foot-pounds of torque, something like that, which is pretty impressive. Power delivery is actually through an exposed drive shaft, which is something that you don't see on motorcycles a whole lot. But it looks kind of neat. We'll take a look at that when we do an overview of the entire bike here in a little bit. That's an 800-pound bike. It rides extremely smooth. And that's one thing that I do love about this bike, is just how comfortable it is. Extremely upright. You've got all kinds of room on your feet, which is good and bad, because the first thing that I really noticed on this bike was kind of the accessibility to my back brake and the gear shifting. Now this one does have a heel shifter on it, which is quite nice. I've ridden Harleys that have the heel shifter on them for shifting up, and then you have your normal shifter for shifting down, so you're never actually having to do the toe up, which makes it very nice when it comes to shifting. But with this one, everything seems very tucked into the bike, so it's almost like you go to reach for something and it's not exactly where you expect it to be. Now, with everything, I'd imagine that you would get used to that, but just something to be mindful of where your foot is actually resting versus where your feet need to be to actually make a gear change, or even hit your brake over here. There's yeah, you definitely got to feel for it a little bit. And if you have like an S1000 or something like that, one of the new ones, a lot of the controls are a lot the same. I mean, we've got our cruise control, we've got our hazards, our traction control, our menu buttons. Everything over here is the same. The only thing we're missing is the Wonder Wheel, but they actually do have an upgraded model of this bike. I believe it's the Continental or something like that, that does have the Wonder Wheel on it. This is the classic model, which does not have the Wonder Wheel, but it does have everything else. We still have our cruise control, and then over here, that's where our stop and our start buttons are. We've also got our different power modes, as well as our fancy heated grips, which we've come to love. And obviously, we can always adjust like the bars and how they tilt and all that good stuff. But as it sits right now, it's actually pretty comfortable for myself. I'm 6 foot and I've got long arms, so for me, I'm able to sit upright in the saddle. Arms are about just below shoulder height, and it is very comfortable. I'm not really holding on to anything, you know. I just got my arms are just kind of dangling there, and I like that. It's very, very comfortable. Then as far as foot placement, they're actually a little, they're not mid controls, but they are kind of mid controls. But that's because you've got the engine sticking straight out. You can't really put highway bars on this one. I mean, you might be able to, but they're limited with your foot placement because of where the engine is, which is fine. I mean, it's a little bit different than your typical cruiser. At least some of them, I feel like you actually stretch your legs out. Again, I'm 6 foot, so anytime I can stretch my legs out a little bit, I'll take it. Unfortunately, this one, it doesn't feel cramped. Your foot isn't stretched out as much as you maybe hope for. But with that being said, it still is not in a, my legs are not tangled up in a way that is going to be uncomfortable for a long haul. But it would be nice if I could stretch them out just a little bit more. Then the one thing that this bike is missing is the tack. I know a lot of people on cruisers probably don't really care about the tack too much, but I'm so used to looking at it and just kind of knowing where I'm at in the rev range, just so I can understand the bike a little bit better. So on this thing, it seems to have a nice smooth point in the rev range where the engine's not really shaking a whole lot. But I don't know where that's at, because obviously I can't see that. And maybe there's settings where I can see a digital display, but I'm not going to mess with any of that. For the most part, the bike is extremely smooth, but you can kind of feel when it wants to shift, because the yeah, you got 900 cc's trying to escape outward, and you can definitely feel it. But if you're in that special rev range where it feels really nice, it's nice and smooth. It feels really, really good. So overall, really, really smooth bike. I'm actually quite impressed with this thing. I've ridden a lot of Harleys and stuff like that, but this is the first giant boxer style engine cruiser from BMW that I've actually ridden, and I have to say, it feels quite nice. Another fun thing to point out, if finding neutral on this thing is a breeze. It really is. With the heel shifter, just give it a quick little tap with your heel and you're in neutral. There's no guessing game, there's no trying to search for it. It just feels really good. Also, you can kind of see how the torque works on this thing with the engine. I don't know if you can see it from the GoPro, but look at the handlebars. The whole bike is just kind of going back and forth. It is each side of the engine is fighting for its own piece of the pie. It's like a tug of war going on. Alright, as I mentioned earlier in the video, it's a little hard to get used to the controls and where everything's at. So everything seems like it's very tucked in where your boot's at. I've only put a couple miles on it, and I'm already starting to get used to that. So I wouldn't use that as necessarily a griping point. If you're riding something else right now, everything's going to feel a little bit off, obviously. But after a couple miles, just kind of going through some gear changes, you're going to feel a little bit more comfortable, obviously. It just feels a little, I don't know, maybe it's because I can't see it, because everything's hidden under these giant cylinder heads. Normally when I'm doing these test rides, I'm usually out in the twisties, because I'm on a sport bike. Hell, even a cruiser, I still want to take it through the twisties and feel a little bit. But this thing, I don't know, it's just a cruiser bike, man. And I'm a little concerned about leaning over too far, only because of the way that the engine is built, and the floorboards are mid, but they are low. So I don't know exactly what the lean angle this bike could take, but so far so good. Just, you know, normal riding, you're fine. But obviously I'm one to push the corners a little bit, but we're gonna save that for a different day. We're not gonna do that with this bike. You know, honestly, when you look at this bike from a distance, or hell, even when you first sit on it, you'd probably think that it's gonna be a slouch. It's not gonna be a very quick bike. It's only got 90 horsepower, but it's that torque that'll get you going. And this thing has plenty of torque. I mean, it's not the fastest bike in the world, but it pulls, and it's fun, man. Like, if you're looking for a cruiser that just pulls, something that's unique, something that's got that classic styling to it, like, this is definitely a bike that I feel like you should ride. At least go test ride this thing and just get a feel for it. Most people that have ridden cruisers have ridden Harleys, they've ridden the street glides, road glides, probably some Sportsters, stuff like that. And this is completely different than all of those, you know. And I've always wanted a road glide. That's always kind of been my bike of choice, I guess, as far as the Harleys go. I've never owned one, but I've ridden a handful of them. And I really like that bike a lot. I like the way that it looks, everything about it. What's up, cows and birds? But this thing is actually, with the all built out version, I'm going to post up some pictures so you guys can see kind of what I'm talking about. It's got like a 10-inch screen on it. It's got the Wonder Wheel from the S1000RR. It's got all the same controls. It's got the Marshall speakers, all this stuff. That thing's decked out, and I would probably pick that over any Harley, to be honest with you, because that bike is beautiful. That bike is not a demo right now, unfortunately, so I'm not riding that one. But this has got the same bones to it. It's got the same engine, the same power delivery, all that stuff's the same. So I'm still very happy that I was able to ride this one. Why? I don't know. I'm getting a lot of wind noise. I don't know if it's this windshield. I don't know if it's really not that windy out. I've got a full face helmet on, obviously, and I'm still getting a lot of wind noise. I'm sure that you can make some adjustments and stuff, but it's not blocking as much wind as I thought it would with this particular shield. Now I'm assuming that they've got a handful of different shields to choose from, and it could have a lot to do with the helmet that I'm using. I'm using an X14, which is a more kind of like a leaned over helmet. It's a race helmet, so when I'm sitting upright on this cruiser, this helmet is not exactly designed for that, aerodynamically anyway. So that's probably where some of my wind noise is coming from. But overall, this thing's kind of fun. Again, the only gripe that I really have is I keep wanting to put my feet more forward. I feel like my feet should be more forward. Like kind of like where the engine is. That's where I feel like my feet should be right now. So it's definitely a different feel. I don't know. Without going like on a full-on long trip to like Miami or to like Georgia, or at least going on something that's like a 4-hour ride or something like that, I'm not gonna really know how it feels long term. I mean, overall, like I've got a Honda Magna 750, and this is about the same foot placement that that thing's got, which is mid controls. It's fun. It's easy to maneuver the bike when your feet are in that position, but it's just a little bit different, that's all. There we go, we're getting some turns. We're not scraping or anything, so I imagine we got more room than we think. But this bike shifts extremely smooth. It's got that big engine feel, and it feels like the internals, the tolerances are so tight in the gearbox that everything just kind of slides right into place exactly like it's supposed to, when it's supposed to. There's no hesitation whatsoever. All right, we're gonna bring this baby back. So riding this thing, I actually really like that all the controls are a lot like my S1000RR. All of these are exactly the same. The only thing it's missing is it does not have the Wonder Wheel, but the premium model, or I can't remember exactly what they call it, does actually have. As far as its width, like I was saying, it's got that boxer style engine, so it's super wide, but it's pretty well balanced. Now when you do start off, you feel that torque kind of twisting you a little bit, but it's well balanced, I'll give it that. For as bulky as it looks and appears, it's pretty well balanced. Now as far as your controls down here, obviously you've got your heel and your toe shifter, which is kind of nice to have. Some people don't like that, but I actually do enjoy having that. It makes it a little bit easier just to shift. But when you're on the bike, you actually feel, at least for me, I felt like I was really searching to find my shifting points here. I felt like I was, maybe it's just because this is in the way and I can't see my feet, even though I'm not really looking at my feet. I just felt like it was just, the position was a little weird. And the fact that this is all in the way means that your foot position is very mid-control compared to where you're sitting. So it's kind of like mid-control. It's not gonna be like a Harley or an Indian or anything like that where your controls will be more forward because you got the engine in the way. And even with those little tiny gripes as far as foot placement goes, the bike was still extremely comfortable. I could probably take this for a pretty long trip and be pretty comfortable on the thing. It would just take some getting used to because it's not like your typical cruiser where your controls are more forward. But as far as your hand placement, the seating and all that stuff, everything's right where it needs to be.